Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is
Woohoo!
Monday, January 5th, and this is our weekly Hoops HD report. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We got David Dorman and David Griggs up top here, Joby Fortson, John Titel, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org. Full panel here to discuss all the going ons over the past week here and preview the next week of in all the major conferences. Uh, and we got a lot to get to, including we were just discussing it before we started the show, and I think it's a great place to start in the Big Ten with the number 10 team in the nation for the first time, Titel, since what year?
1966, Chad. How old were
Ni-
you?
1966. I was -7.
Not even a thought.
uh, that was, yeah, congratulations to Nebraska Cornhuskers. They followed up with a win tonight at Ohio State, a big road victory, and I think it's a great place to start here because uh, it's almost amazing here. I was wondering if Ohio State had won this game, if they would storm the court against Nebraska. That's what the story is now. But Rocco, how about this Nebraska team here? I mean, what Fred Hoiberg has done is almost unbelievable at a school that could not win in basketball for no matter how hard they tried.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the way they're playing is catching a lot of teams off guard, especially in these big games that they've had. I thought today was a really tough spot, coming off the big emotional home win on Friday against the Spartans, a game that was basically 50-50 with a few minutes to go, and they pulled that out. And then they had to get on a plane and leave the time zone, at least travel one time zone east on a weird Monday. And so that's a sign of a really, really strong, mature team to be able to get this win tonight. And I think that's what we're learning about them. They had the big win, of course, in the second weekend of December, where they came out with a huge lead at Illinois and held on for dear life to win by three. Illinois almost, I think if that game goes 3 more minutes, Chad, they lose. But I think, the fact that they're the aggressors in most of these cases. Today they were down for a little bit, and got a lead by halftime, and then kind of made sure they got the win late. But it's a testament to all the different weapons they have. It's an elite shooting team with Price Sanford, Hoiberg's son Sam. But I also think, Berkey, the big Turkish junior that originally started at UCLA, he's finally blossomed into what his potential could be. And I think the rink mass factor with his passing ability, in the high post gives them something very lethal that most teams just don't have. Being able to play, Berkey and Mass together is a tough look. It's hard to defend, and I think Nebraska's offense is going to keep them in it against pretty much anybody in the country.
And a quick note about them. I think Seton Hall is still the bigger surprise, but this is a close second, and it is arguably an even bigger, more important surprise. They're certainly having success on a higher level. Coming into the season, I meant to look this up. I don't think they got a single vote in either poll. And I remember that Oklahoma game at the out at the
Yeah.
Pentagon, and we mentioned it, and I think all we said about it was there were a lot of other showcase games that day. Was this could be a game that ends up being way more important in March than what it feels like it is today? Well, that's coming to fruition. But I don't want to get there was something about today's win that really now I think that the ranking of 10th is not only deserved, they might actually be 10th. Ohio State certainly isn't Michigan, and they're not a top 25 team, but to go on the road and win like that after they've done everything else that they've done, they've beaten good teams on neutral floors. They won at Illinois, as Rocco just said. They've done everything. I mean, this is a good team. That
Yeah,
this
and I should also point out that a Crown tournament champion has never gone on to lose another game again in Crown tournament history.
Ever.
yeah. And how about Tim Miles and the job he is doing? How is he not coach of the year? He's got
Okay.
this team rolling.
How about a little bit more about the rest of the conference? So, Titel, how about the team they beat tonight, Ohio State? I know you have a few thoughts on them.
Yes, my thoughts would have been better an hour ago when they were leaving, actually, but oh well. Coach Jake Diebler had lost 3 out of 5 after Thanksgiving. He did beat Rutgers at Jersey Chad's Arena last Friday. And then he did blow a lead with 8 minutes left to undefeated Nebraska earlier tonight. Senior point guard Bruce Thornton is second team All Conference last year. He might be second team All American this year. 21 points, 5 boards, 4 assists a game, and a great supporting cast with Christoph Tilley, John Mobley, and Devin Royal each scoring 13 to 14 a game. And after Miami pulled off the biggest point spread upset in the 12-year history of the college football playoff with their 10-point win over the defending national champs last week, now the students, fans, alumni, they can all focus their attention on the basketball team, finally.
Yeah, I don't think we gave this team as much credit as they deserved last night when we did our bracket rundown. I think this team is still right in the mix there. They didn't win tonight, but they were right there with an undefeated team. So I agree with you on that. A few other teams worth discussing here, I guess. Dorman. It seems we almost forget about Purdue with the Nebraska story and the Michigan story going on, but this is still, an elite basketball team as well, are they not?
They're awesome. I've loved this team from the start. I think when Iowa State went in there to Mackey and absolutely rolled them, everyone said, "Oh, this team's overrated," and kind of knocked them out. I think as a team, they've only gotten better. I think it woke them up. Sometimes losses help, and I think they got their focus back. I think they had an ego about them that they were going to just walk in and win each game. And Iowa State came in and absolutely blasted them. And their focus and their detail to attention has been so much better. I think Painter has these guys locked in now. They're playing great basketball. Ray seems to be healthy. The guards are just playing fantastic basketball. Braden Smith broke the Big Ten all-time assists record the other day. That got a lot of publicity, as well it should. This kid passes the ball as well as any kid I've seen in college in the last 10, 15 years. He's awesome. He's team first. He can hit shots left and right, but he loves to pass the ball. I still have as high hopes of this Boilermaker team as ever. I think they're on the fast track to the Final Four.
I agree with you. Griggs, I just got a note here. You want to discuss the team that's listed number 4 there, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Team
Well,
one of those teams that we just don't know enough yet because they only played 2 really good teams, but they were really good teams on the road.
yeah, a couple of reasons I wanted to discuss them. One, if you haven't watched our bracket show from last night, you need to because Iowa was one of the teams that we were sort of all over the map. I know Rocco really likes them. I don't like their profile, but I like their potential. And essentially, that's my assessment of them. A good team that doesn't have the profile yet, largely because they just haven't played the schedule yet, minus Iowa State and Michigan State. But as they go on and go through Big Ten Conference, I think that they're going to rack up the wins they need. They just kind of don't have the profile yet. But I, I know Rocco's going to want to jump in here. They've certainly shown the potential.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think also just everything else you can look at in terms of the way they're trending. They're third in the country in 2-point field goal percentage. They're top 25 offense. They're a top 20 defense. And, I get that they haven't played any other marquee games, but the UCLA win was very impressive to me. All rebounding, toughness, smart shot selection, big time shots when they needed them, kept UCLA at arm's length throughout. And that's what you need to do to be a quality team in the Big Ten with really no sweat on Selection Sunday is win those types of games. So I think it's just a lot of good early signs. We know they have a superstar in Bennett Sturts and an amazing coach. So I like that formula.
Next week, it'll be after our show next week. At about the middle of next week, they go to Purdue. We will learn something then.
Well, they
Host
got Illinois.
Illinois on Sunday.
They
Yeah.
host
Yeah.
Illinois Sunday
And
before
the
that.
barn tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot with that Illinois game.
I think they beat Illinois Sunday at home.
They should.
Yeah.
I think we need a quick scoreboard refresh here to congratulate my Rutgers Scarlet Knights on their first conference win of the season.
Nope. Overtime.
Beating a power. They just held off. Held off.
It's in overtime, Chad.
Hold on. There it is. It's a final. 88-85.
Chad won, and Chad, you beat a Final Four team, college football playoff Final Four team, but a Final Four team.
I guess, Joby, let's go one other team out there. Michigan State, as we record this, big early lead on USC, a game that I thought might be a little competitive tonight, and maybe it still will be, but at the moment it's
But
not.
that 27-11 is what I have right now, and
Yeah.
whoa, that is a big shocker. Michigan State's they're who we thought they were. They've lost There's no shame losing to Duke, who we had, I think, rightfully a 2 seed, and even some discussion of the 1. And they lost to that in Lincoln. Come on. We opened the show talking about the Cornhuskers, but then meanwhile put up their own resume of North Carolina and others. So it's this Michigan State team's protected seed. It's a solid seed. I don't see them climbing to the very height of heights on a seed list, but I think they will be in a position where they might be high enough where they can pick their spot to a degree. Not be sent out way out west, for instance, high enough in the seed list as a protected seed.
And Chet, before we move on, I know we spent some time on them yesterday. It's disappointing that Michigan's schedule is 11th and not 5th because they're literally in the top 5 of everything else. In every metric, in every predictive metric, in every every poll, everything, having a level of dominance. And what's funny is that once upon a time before Thanksgiving, Wake Forest went into Detroit and almost beat them. And I said, Michigan does not look like the 6th-ranked team. All I want to say is I was correct. They do not currently look like the 6th-ranked team.
Here's the upcoming schedule. It's actually a little disappointing. There's maybe that Illinois-Iowa game is probably the next best game over the next 7 days here. Just we're not getting those marquee matchups quite yet. We will be getting them later on in the season here. But there's some interesting games, at least Nebraska with another road test coming up and a very good Indiana team that just Rocco beat your Washington Huskies last night. I know you weren't very happy about that.
We would not have used the term "very good Indiana team" until last night, Chad, because, as Evan tried to
not very good, but good. A solid Indiana team, I would argue.
But it's a legit road test for Nebraska, similar to what they face tonight. So it'll be a very interesting game.
2 teams coming off of losses that really could use a win. Tomorrow night, watch that UCLA at Wisconsin game. 2 teams coming off a loss. Both of them could use a win to get back on track. That's a big game in the Big Ten tomorrow night.
Big sense of urgency to that game.
And I think fascinating week actually here for Ohio State. Coming off that loss at Oregon, at Washington, the tough road trip. They go 2-0 on this trip, and we're talking about them seriously come next week.
Oh, yeah. If they get both of those, oh, yeah.
not that either team is looking like a tournament team right now. Sorry, Rocco, but
it's still hard to go on the road.
Let's jump over on the road. Yes.
Yeah. Let's jump over to the Big 12 here, and I guess there's a bunch of different stories we can hit, including 2 undefeated teams in both Arizona and Iowa State. But Rocco, I was thinking this BYU team. We've almost not giving them as much attention as they deserve, and because I think that's how much attention they really do deserve. A real nice win at Kansas State, nice road win this week.
Yeah, it seems like they've turned a little bit of a corner, beginning with that second half against Clemson, when, of course, a very memorable game in the Jimmy V Classic in a deep hole. Came out of that hole. That game they were down 43-22 at half, 21-point deficit. And of course, we all know what happened later with the dramatic win. And since that point, they haven't had the biggest test since then, but they've just played at a much higher level overall, just destroying Riverside Pacific, Abilene Christian, who are all pretty decent mid-major programs, Eastern Washington as well, and then getting on the road and winning by double digits to open up league play. AJ DeBansa is, of course, a cheat code, top 3 pick, probably maybe even number 2 or number 1. So at his size, he can pull up and pop, and you can't do anything about it in any of the matchups I've seen so far. So I don't expect that to change too much. It'll be interesting when they play Houston, because maybe that's the one defense that can slow him down. But I think you look at all the other weapons around him with Kennard Davis coming over from Southern Illinois, been a great addition. Richie Saunders, the longtime vet now. Robert Wright's very talented. Kiba Kita's a great force in the middle. This is a really good all-around team with NBA talent. So it's going to take a lot to upset them.
The team that I think Dorman got to everybody's radar this week was UCF. Huge home win over Kansas.
Yeah, that was a big one. Coach Johnny Dawkins had his troops ready to go at home over the weekend. Kansas came in maybe a little lackluster. They looked like they were sleeping through the first 30 minutes, but the place was jumping. And I like the way I like the way this team is. They're not getting a lot of publicity, but all they're doing is winning. They have one loss to a Vanderbilt team that we all think is really, really good. Kugel is shooting the ball really, really well, better than he has in the past. I like Johnny Dawkins' team. I see this team keep on winning, keep on their winning ways. There'll be slip ups in the Big 12 in the conference, but again, they're going to Oklahoma State, Cincinnati at home, and Kansas State. They got a chance to win the next three. Also, this team's playing really good basketball. I like the Knights.
I think they do
win the next three. The two after that, maybe another story. Arizona, Iowa State.
If they win the next three, that is going to be just. I mean, to get that kind of a showcase at home, those fans might blow the roof off the place. I think they might also get blown out of the place, but my God, what an atmosphere that's going to be.
Titel, how about Jamie Dixon's Horned Frogs? The bad loss to start the season to New Orleans. The loss is actually getting worse as New Orleans is not performing very well in conference so far. But they've looked pretty good since then.
You're stealing most of my thunder, but you're 100%
Sorry.
correct. I mean, no, they didn't just lose to New Orleans. They were down 21 in the second half, and I was ready to write them off for the season. And then they beat Florida and Wisconsin back-to-back neutral site, beat Baylor last Saturday. Arguably, the most impressive performance all year was in a losing effort because they lost to Michigan by 4, which is crazy because the Wolverines are beating everyone by 20 these days. But a brutal 9-day stretch ahead. Road trip to Kansas on Tuesday, host Arizona Saturday, road trip to BYU the following Wednesday. They're doing it with defense, which has been delightful. 65 points per game allowed is top 20 in the nation.
They are. I guess the other story here, Joby, if you look at what happened over the past week, one of the notable, I guess there's two of the notable wins. Texas Tech, yeah, it was a home win, but they blew Oklahoma State out of the
They looked
building.
great. We that was more of a test for Oklahoma State, in all honesty. And I felt that Oklahoma State, I know Texas Tech's good. I mean, Texas Tech's resume is strong regardless. They already have a protected seed scalp versus Duke. LSU's a good win because LSU's in the field right now. And they beat Wake in a similar fashion that Michigan did, so that must mean something. But the fact is, it's really the other side of the coin that I paid attention to when I was watching that game, and it wasn't close. Like it's not one of these, oh, it got out of hand at one point, it was close. No, Texas Tech cruised the whole way, start to finish. It was never in doubt. And that makes me question the week out of conference schedule for Oklahoma State. And is it a gaudy record that's really going to wind up maybe with a losing edge overall? Because preseason we thought Oklahoma State was near the bottom of the Big 12. They put up some gaudy, they put up a good record out of conference, but I'm afraid that they may be a little counterfeit. And the Texas Tech game, tough place to win. So it's not like, yeah, we can't completely bury them, but I was not impressed with Oklahoma State. And equally, Texas Tech did what we would hope they would do against a team that's probably, NIT-ish level or crown level or whatever the big
Texas Tech, wow, I mean, my preseason pick to win it all, and I think that they're continuing to get better. They started off good, but they're better now than they were in November.
Agreed.
And I think that they're one of those teams, and I think we saw it a little bit last year too, that they didn't start off going 100 miles an hour, but by the time Christmas was over, they were going 100 miles an hour. This is a team, they got a big game, I think, against Houston coming up tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, game, maybe the game of the week here circled.
Yeah.
Texas Tech at Houston.
The only thing I want to say about that, last year, Texas Tech went to Houston and won. It was a remarkable win. But what was more fun than Texas Tech winning was the meme the GIF that we had of Grant McCaslin, and we had fun with that for a month. Him getting mad and yeah. Because he lost his key. Every day we came up with some reason he got mad.
Some other notable games. UCF, we just mentioned that. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, a tough road test at Baylor, actually. We'll learn a lot about both teams here. A lot about Baylor, especially in that game. I tell you, were just pumping up TCU there. They're going to be hosting Arizona come Saturday. And Of course, one of the great rivalries in all of college basketball, BYU Utah on Saturday as well. Uh,
Yeah,
and I'm not joking about that one. That is a great rivalry
right.
game.
The Holy War.
The Holy War.
Yes. It's a bit of a mismatch this year, but God, I think that's the most tense rivalry in the country.
Uh,
Not the
jumping over,
biggest, but the most tense.
jumping over to the SEC, and Dorman, let me start with you in this conference and the team that just you can't stop talking about. Undefeated, the Vanderbilt Commodores, 14-0, hosting Alabama in a couple of nights here.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Just that game. I can't wait to see this game. And I know a lot of the country is because a lot of people are saying, Vanderbilt hasn't beaten anyone. I'm not a Memphis guy. VCU is, under the radar. St. Mary's was early. I don't agree with it. Vanderbilt is loaded and playing great ball. Mark Byington coming over from James Madison did a phenomenal job there. He's done it just as well here in Nashville for the Commodores. Alabama coming off a huge win at home to Kentucky, but they were up 15 the whole second half. Most of the second half in that game. Kentucky made some runs, but Bama looks good. Alabama's playing as well as they have all year. This game is going to be awesome this week. Vanderbilt and Alabama. Considering the games in Nashville, I lean a little to Vanderbilt. I'd like to
Oh, I
see
do
them get the
too.
win, and I think people will really start to believe in this program nationally. Those that don't follow the sport as close as we do.
Rocco, as we look at this screen here, we got to scroll down and down and down to find two of the most important names on the SEC standings.
Mhm.
Florida, your defending national champions, and Kentucky, who believes they should win the championship every year. Choose whichever one you want to take here, because both these programs, I think they're worth a little dissecting a little bit here. What's going on?
Yeah, I guess I'll take Florida.
Okay.
I think Boogie Fland has been major, major struggle. If you saw how he shot the ball against Missouri, it was pretty ugly. You don't want to blame a loss on one guy, but he was 0 for 6 from three, had a wildly ugly shot that would have, if he was accurate, could have hit the game winner. But I mean, they're still trying to feel it out. Xavier Lee was also getting criticized early in the process, really starting to come around. So I really do think the biggest difference with Florida is the backcourt, just trying to, get those guys rolling. They obviously are very talented. Urban Klabzar is a nice insurance piece off the bench. So is CJ Ingram, who's starting to maybe get a little bit more look. But the front court is still very much elite. And I think that gives Florida a very high floor, at least in terms of performance. You could take the five losses. This was mentioned yesterday as well, and they equal 17 total points.
Yeah,
And we're talking about losses to Duke, UConn. TCU was out
Arizona.
in California and Arizona. So, I mean, this team is right. They're inches away from figuring it all out. And if they can just get Fland and Lee playing consistent, watch out because they could rip. Kind of like last year when they were teetering around. I don't know where we started in our bracket shows, probably around the 5, 6, even down to 8 line at that point, and then really, really exploded later in January and into February. So definitely got my eye on that, and obviously everybody a little bit of a change in the assistant coaches as well. You have to think about Kevin Hobdy, who's doing an incredible job. Columbia went to 12-3 tonight.
Yeah.
John Andrzejczyk, of course, doing a pretty good job at Campbell so far. So again, there's just been a little enough of change at Florida, but still a lot of elite talent in the front court, and so you got to keep them on your radar.
Yeah, and one of the things about that, Rocco, is if you peel back the onion a little bit, you start to look at everybody that he lost to was a protected seed. Well, not everybody, but Arizona, Duke, UConn. These are like one seed caliber teams, and they were
Right.
competitive in all those games, and none of them were at home. I think they're on the brink, and if you can go out there and play games like that and be that competitive and still find things that are as wrong as them with them as what you pointed out, it goes to show you that this team's ceiling is still really high. And
Yeah.
because their record is what it is, and because they haven't really beaten anybody a note, it's kind of you tend to look at how low the floor is as far as how high the ceiling is. They are really like these two showcase games coming up at home. Georgia's a rivalry, Tennessee, a big game there. even though those are home games, if they win both of those, it might really get their motors started. And this is a team that could still thunder down the stretch. And by the time we get to mid-February, it's just one of those things like, oh yeah, they were 9-5.
Uh,
Mhm.
are we going to, Joby? Are we going to be saying the same about the other 9-5 team here,
I
Kentucky?
don't
No.
know. I don't know. Well, and just as a pit to put a pin in the Florida discussion, their next six games are all against tournament level opposition. Um, Kentucky, by contrast, Georgia, Tennessee. I think Oklahoma's a tournament team, barely in,
Right.
but they're in. Uh, Kentucky, not so much over the next their next six games. They got two tournament teams on the road. They've got to have they cannot lose any of those home games. They just can't. And they really need to pick off one of those road games right now. Because I don't see them right now beating Vanderbilt and Arkansas. Coming up, Arkansas, the team that we should be looking at with a bullet. Um, Kentucky can't. We know they have the talent. They showed last year an ability to get back into the season, much like we talk about Florida. So we can't write Kentucky off yet because when you have that talent, you can't do it. Likewise, like Florida, look at those losses. I mean, not a single one of those losses is embarrassing. Not a single one. As a matter of fact, all of them, if you view Kentucky as an 8-9 team, which I kind of do right now, they should lose to North Carolina at home, and then the others away from home, and then higher seeds away from home. But they've got to start putting up the wins,
One of the,
and
oh, sorry.
SEC will give it to them, but not right away. And if they slip up over these next six games too much, then we start talking about should they be a tournament team or not.
Yeah. One of the things about Kentucky is, Mark Pope, former player there, a legend, and of course the fans are being so patient with this team. They understand it's a building pro.
Okay, let's move on here. Titel, uh, Texas A&M, almost quietly 11-3.
So our favorite coach, Bucky McMillan, had a very weak
Yes.
non-conference schedule, which I suppose makes sense. He was bringing 13 new players this year, so you want to ease into it. But somehow that all prepared his team for conference play because they beat LSU last Saturday. Their three losses, Oklahoma State, UCF, SMU, are a combined 36-5. So even though they're not losing to one seeds, they're losing to winning teams. Very tough week ahead. Road trip to Auburn Tuesday, host Oklahoma on Saturday. Offense has been outstanding. 95 points a game is number five in the nation. Their medical situation has been miserable. Indiana transfer Mackenzie McBacco, aka McTaco, out for the year with a Jones fracture in his right foot, which begs the question: if we named an injury after the puppet, what body part do you think it would apply to?
The head.
Okay. Yeah, I just I think we got to discuss one of the games that happened this past week. Well, obviously Alabama beat Kentucky, Arkansas with that win over Tennessee. Dorman though that was impressive to me.
Yes, the Arkansas win, I agree. That was impressive. A lot of people thought Tennessee, the way they look lately, we're going to take Arkansas and run them out of the building. Calipari said, not on my watch. Arkansas played as well as they have all year. I really thought Arkansas was clicking on all cylinders over the weekend. Their bigs were finally a physical presence. I thought they were all over the boards. I thought they were the key to me was they were the more physical team. And when you watch Tennessee, you usually see Tennessee being the more physical team on defense. When I watched that game on Saturday, I thought Arkansas was the aggressor. I thought they were more physical down low, and they were better on the boards. And Arkansas got a few shots when they needed them, and Arkansas comes out with the big win. Tennessee will be fine. Tennessee's a really, really strong club, but Arkansas for over the weekend was pretty impressive.
The other great game that was Griggs, this Georgia Auburn game.
Oh, yes.
How about that? How about Georgia? I mean, seriously on the map now too.
Yeah, it was a really big win for Georgia at home over a rival. But I also thought while they didn't win, it's one of the better games Auburn has played this year. And while they're not where they want to be and probably not where they need to be, I think that at the very least, despite the loss, it showed that they're good enough to get to where they think they should be. But my God, what a game! It was just, it was. I mean, massive momentum shifts, close all the way throughout. Just very well played. It was. If you missed it, you need to go back and watch it, which you can do now because of streaming.
Uh, Coming up this week here, we've got
Big week.
Mm.
start with the cocktail party, Georgia and Florida, right?
Yeah.
A&M Auburn. We've
A&M
got
Auburn, the storyline there is while it's not a showcase game, it's a game that's very important to both of those teams for all of the reasons that we just talked about. They both need that one.
all the way through to Saturday with some interesting games, including LSU, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee at Florida. I mean, I think that's one to definitely circle here this week.
Yes, yes.
Florida's got
Uh,
two big home games here.
Chad, I'd even add Oklahoma at Texas A&M, given that Oklahoma, those are two teams fighting for a spot in the tournament. Right now, I think we said Oklahoma's in, but maybe in Dayton. I'm trying to remember, and A&M is under consideration. So that is a pivot game for these two at this stage of the season.
All right, let's jump over to the ACC and Ty, you want to start us off with the ACC? Where do you want to start?
I'd like to start with a little team I like to call Miami. 7-point win over Pitt last week to extend their winning streak to 7 games. Only 2 losses are quality. Florida neutral site, BYU neutral site. They have a road game at Wake on Wednesday. And you all know how I love first-year coaches, but Jay Lucas has both amazing bloodlines. His father, John, was the first overall pick in the draft in 76, and he has amazing coaching mentors. He's only 36. He's been an assistant to Rick Barnes at Texas, John Calipari at Kentucky, and John Shire at Duke. The key to his success has been the transfer portal. Trey Donaldson from Michigan, Malik Renault from Indiana, and True Washington from New Mexico, combining for 50 points, 15 boards, 11 assists, and 4 steals a game.
And how about that this resume here, Griggs? They are undefeated, Miami.
Yes, very much interesting. I was going to bring them up during my final, but yeah, I mean, my God, does he have it going?
Wrong Miami,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
But in terms of some of the games we saw this week as well, I guess the biggest storyline here, Rocco, was SMU's win over North Carolina.
It was a great win. Boopy Miller, 12 assists. And I think you look at SMU's roster and the addition of Jerron Pierre, Conference USA Player of the Year last year at Jacksonville State. And they don't have to go that deep. You look at the Carolina game, I think told us a lot about how they're going to approach their big matchups. BJ Edwards is still there as a senior. Obviously, Pierre and Corey Washington came over as well. So they have 4 old guys, and in that game, they all went 30 plus minutes. BJ Edwards basically played the whole game. And between the two bigs, the big Turkish man, Samet, I don't want to butcher his last name, but he's obviously a huge force on the defensive end, trying to go up against a 7'2", 270-pounder. That was a big challenge for Henry Visar in North Carolina. And then Jaden Toombs is a really nice freshman, rotates in, and they can play together as well at 6'10", 230. So Andy Enfield knows how to manage bigs. You saw that over the years at USC. So that's a nice 2-man combo. And I think it's really interesting too. Like I was writing a story this morning on SMU actually, and Jermaine O'Neal Jr. is on this team, and I was like, man, that made me feel old. But he's a quality freshman, and Sam Walters is still there as insurance, who's played on really good Alabama and Michigan teams earlier in his career. So I really like the makeup of this roster. And right now, SMU is much safer, at least at this point in the year. The big story last year, as you guys remember, was every time they had a big game, they would fall way short and sometimes embarrassingly well short. Well, this is a big difference from last year. A quality North Carolina team comes in 13-1, and they were by far the better team. SMU was. I get it was a home win, but I think that's really important for where this program's at. And they're full of old veteran players that have played a lot of college basketball. And I think this is a tournament caliber roster as long as they can stay healthy.
Yeah, Joby, Louisville and Notre Dame both had an interesting week. They did that Cal Stanford road trip, which with Cal Stanford both coming in last year, Wake Forest, I believe last year was the only team to have swept the Cal Stanford road trip in the ACC so far since they've begun it, and neither Notre Dame nor Louisville could. And maybe we should start with this Stanford team because they only allow 47 points to Notre Dame yet lose the game, and then they beat Louisville 2 days later.
I
What the
mean,
hell is that?
well, Stanford, Stanford's definitely your Jekyll and Hyde in the nation, practically, when you're beating a team that's fighting for a protected seed. But then you've also lost to an awful UNLV team. I actually am not as down on Seattle
Oh, we
as
like you.
others. But Notre Dame, what are you doing? What are you doing at home? The Irish are not good.
There was more offense in the Notre Dame Stanford football game this year than there was in the basketball
You
game.
know what? Very true. Very true. I think there were more points scored in that game. In the well, actually, no, because Stanford got boat raced so bad by Notre Dame in football that 40 would have dreamed for that. But but yeah, Stanford's a weird team. But here's what my theory of the case is often, because they have St. Louis win, Colorado, Minnesota, are those NIT level type wins. Because the ACC is better this year than it has been, Stanford has opportunities that they wouldn't have had last year, by the way, to make up for some of those bad losses. And I personally am a big believer that if you can get a bunch of really good tournament level wins, they need to do it more than just St. Louis away from home, uh, to be able to accomplish that. Stanford has a pathway, and the Louisville win gives them that pathway. They need to execute on it. They've got a really tough trip to the Old Dominion State coming up over this next week. They probably need to grab one for me to continue to talk like this. And getting it will be very tough,
Yeah,
but they have opportunities.
they do. Can we go back to that to their page real quick? They have a path. If they win their next 4 games, I am absolutely on the same page as Joby. I will be putting this team in the.
Uh,
Last year, you couldn't have found a schedule. This goes to the point though. You could not have found a schedule of an
Yeah,
ACC team where if you win those four, as ridiculous as Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech is, well, take those exact same teams. Oh, they beat Duke. Way to go. Now you still have got UNLV and you got no other wins. Way
yeah.
to go.
I mean,
And they're
obviously,
not beating Duke. And they're not
yeah,
beating
I'm
Duke.
teasing Joby a little bit. If they win 2 of those next 4, I am very, very much in their corner. It wouldn't shock me if they lost all 4 of them, though.
Yeah.
Dorman, we saw some weird bounce back and forth with a lot of other teams in this conference. Look at Virginia Tech, the amazing triple overtime win over Virginia. Sorry, Joby.
Yeah.
Turn around, they lose to Wake. NC State beats Wake. Turn around, they lose to Virginia. We're not getting.
Virginia's good.
Everybody seemed to go 1-1 in this conference.
Yeah, I know Virginia's good, and there was an early start time in Raleigh on Saturday, but like North Carolina State's alarm bell never went off. They like slept through the whole game. I just thought there would be more intensity, more of a fight out of North Carolina State. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought Virginia came out. They executed their game plan. They didn't let NC State get out and running. They didn't give up open shots and open threes to let the crowd get into it. The crowd never got into it. Virginia got to play their game the whole way, and they came out of Raleigh with a big win.
And Virginia was up in the 20s most of the game.
Early.
Yeah, they were.
They just crushed them.
What's interesting, David, also on the Virginia NC State component is so it's an 11 a.m. start because the Carolina Hurricanes have a hockey game. And so it's like the ACC could not have done Virginia more of a solid because Raleigh's not an easy place to play usually. But
Wait,
no students in town,
there's a hockey team
11 a.m.
Wow.
11 a.m.
Love
It really could. I would like. Rarely do I thank the ACC for their scheduling, but I will on this case.
The
Absolutely.
hockey
And
team plays in Raleigh? I thought they played in
Yeah.
Charlotte.
No, the Carolina.
Huh.
Carolina plays in the what's it? The 18. What's
Or
this?
it's the rack. They play in
The rack now. But to
Well,
Chad,
welcome
your
to
point-
StanleyCupHD.com, everybody.
But
So,
Chad, to your
so
point,
how
ESPN
about
was
those Rangers? No.
ESPN was so happy with the
yeah.
11 a.m. start that when the game was over, Texas Tech was already up 10 on Oklahoma State for their 1 o'clock start. So it was like,
But Chad, to your point, I think you're going to see this a lot in the ACC. I think a lot of those teams in the middle of this conference, you're going to see that a good win and then a loss where you just scratch your head and said, "What is going on?" Because I think there's more depth to this conference than there definitely has been in the last 3 to 4 years. There's more tournament teams than there has been in the last 3 to 4 years, and I think the middle of that conference is just strong and solid. Virginia Tech's going to give a lot of teams in this conference a good run. Virginia Tech's solid. Louisville's really, really good. When they get healthy, look out. NC State, they're going to get this going. I really believe that. And Wake Forest, we saw last year at points. If Forbes can get a few guys to hit some outside shots, they'll be decent. So I think you're going to see some back and forth from a lot of these teams in the middle of the ACC this year.
I think, Rocco, we can't forget the one team that probably had the most impressive week, though. Clemson. Yes, it was only Syracuse and Pitt, but 2 road wins this week.
Yeah, played very well defensively. Obviously, two kind of rock fights, particularly the Syracuse game. But I think that's the way Clemson wants to win. You know, you saw, I talked about the BYU game earlier. Clemson's also been able to weather the storm since then. Not a lot of pretty wins. They've all been single digits. Even the Mercer win was single digits after the BYU game. But they're playing a really high level of defense, 11th in the country, defending the 3-point line. A lot of the teams they play in the ACC bring really good shooters, so that's going to help them a lot in this league. And almost got them that BYU win, which would have carried them a lot further than where their resume is so far. But I think just stacking road wins the way they did to start league play is really, really going to help. Syracuse, is not completely out of the picture themselves, so that knocks one team further down the board. And Clemson's pretty solidly where they want to be resume wise now, and they can just build from it. And they get a big SMU home game coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah, look at this week ahead. Beginning tomorrow night, a huge game, Duke at Louisville.
Yeah.
Then you got that SMU Clemson coming up after that. We got Stanford trip to Virginia and to Virginia Tech we mentioned already. What else do we have in here? SMU's at
SMU
Duke on
Duke.
Saturday.
Cal at Virginia, a team that
is
Cal really
interesting.
needing a signature win, but on that trip too, the Cal Virginia Tech trip. So a big week for both Stanford and Cal.
Wake at North
And
Carolina,
look-
even, I mean, Wake could make some noise if they could pull off that upset.
Yes, and then Saturday, we have Boston College going to Louisville.
Yum.
Hey. Anyhow, let's move on here. Titel, over in the Big East, let's not start at the top. Let's start at the bottom of the conference. And by the bottom of the conference, I mean St. John's, because I think right now the way they're playing, I think they belong on the bottom of the conference.
Especially considering this team preseason was talked about as like a top 10 team, but
Yeah.
a nifty non-conference schedule for Coach Pitino. 4 SEC teams: Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Kentucky. Back-to-back Big 12 teams at the Players Era in Vegas: Iowa State and Baylor. I got to see them take care of Georgetown in person, the final game of 2025 on New Year's Eve in D.C., and then they have the inexplicable home loss to Providence last Saturday. Zuby Ejiofor was first team all-conference last year. Last week, he looked like the best player in the nation. In 2 games, 29 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, even made 4 of 8 threes, and attempted 36 free throws in 2 games. It's also very nice to see Bryce Hopkins, when healthy, can contribute. He was first team all conference back in 2023. Yes, he's that old. Only played 17 games combined over the next 2 seasons because of injuries. This year, 13 points, 5 boards a game. He has not missed a single game. I'm so glad to see him healthy.
Well, Titel, they're sitting here 9-5, just like we talked about Kentucky and Florida in the SEC. But they have what those 2 teams don't have, which is a really bad home loss on the resume now.
True, which is why they are looking up at many other teams in this conference and in the bracket, but I'm not ready to give up on them just yet. Ejiofor looks like he is all-American caliber material, and if the rest of the team can keep making 15 threes a game like they did in D.C., I think they got a chance.
Well, talk about teams that we're not giving up on. How about a team that just doesn't give up at all in their games? Dorman, Seton Hall. What a week for them. Down big against Marquette, find a way to win it. Down against Creighton, find a way to win it. The cardiac kids here.
I can't even believe it anymore. I had this team coming into the year. I don't think I was alone. I just thought they just didn't have the flat out talent. I just didn't think they had enough players to compete in the Big East at that level. And I've been wrong from the get go because they play hard. Shaheen Holloway is coaching way better than I ever thought he could coach. When there was a point where Creighton was like up 8 or 9 the second half, and I just said, "This is what I think Seton Hall was supposed to be all year." And from that point on, they hit shots, they got the big stops they needed, they played physical, they played really solid defense, and got stops. When in the past, like last year, they wouldn't get a big stop. They could shoot here and there. This year, they got the stops against Creighton, they got the scores. Shaheen Holloway coached a brilliant last 5 minutes, and all of a sudden the Pirates win again. I'm stunned. I don't know what to say anymore because I just couldn't think. I didn't think this was possible. I give them all the credit in the world. These players have really bought in to the coach's system, really playing for each other and the team, and give a lot of credit to this program.
Yeah, and Rocco, this happens right when I thought Creighton was finally starting to turn the corner here. Maybe they get back in the picture. Really, really could not afford to blow that game after, the losses they've been piling up this season.
Yeah, I mean, Creighton, historically, much different team when they come out to the East versus what they can do in Omaha. And Seton Hall, of course, got down into a hole as you guys covered well, but never quit and really got Creighton to play their game, keeping that game in the 50s. I mean, come on, that's huge for the Pirates alone. And then just figuring out a way to break the dam late. That was the magic formula, and it paid off for the Pirates holding Creighton 6 for 27 from downtown. In contrast, Seton Hall only took 7 total threes and made 2 of them, right? So they just want to play backyard basketball, even though Seton Hall, I think, ranks 345th out of 365 teams in average positional height. So they are at a size disadvantage in every game in the Big East, and it is just a grind and an effort. And some of that speed can really kill you, as Kansas State found out when they welcomed Seton Hall in for a double-digit home loss.
Joby, the one other story of this conference. How about Kevin Willard and his Villanova Wildcats
Yeah,
cracking the top 25 in the coaches poll this week?
very deserved too. I want a strong Villanova. I mentioned Arkansas with a bullet, and we discussed Arkansas with their win over Tennessee. I think Villanova likewise is starting to get that bullet. They had a great win against that Seton Hall on the road, against that Seton Hall team before Christmas. And then this weekend proved it wasn't a fluke, went in, took care of business against a solid Butler team on the road. Villanova, where is this coming from? I didn't see it. I'll be the very first one to say, but Bryce Lindsey's been outstanding. Just a good overall performance. And I have to give. I did not see this. Dorman's like, oh, with Seton Hall, right back at you with Villanova. But Villanova, they're in the top half of the bracket, and there's no doubt about it. And if they continue this, too bad the Big East reminds me a little of the ACC last year, the
Yes.
lack of opportunities. But especially with St. John's stubbing their toes and maybe worse. But Villanova is making the most of those opportunities, and they very well may continue to climb up the seed list.
Yeah,
I think they're around a 5 or 6 right now, at
yeah.
least.
It,
Not a 4 quite yet, but a
if
5 or 6.
if you go back to their profile real quick, I don't know about climbing the seed list because it's not quite the same, but they should climb pretty high in the rankings because their next 4 or 5 games, not only are those winnable, I think that those are games that we're expecting them to win, all of them, even though 2 of them are on the road. Marquette is pitiful and Providence isn't a whole lot better. The Johnny's down, George. I mean, they get those, and the storyline of that game going into Connecticut would be, I think they're going to be swinging over their heads in this one, but this is a team that I think is going to be kind of catapulted into the spotlight because I do think they're going to climb the rankings. They barely cracked it this week, but I think they're going to be ranked on the teens by the
Right. Well,
time they go
once
to.
you're in, then
Yeah,
as teams lose in front of you and you continue to win, you just float up the rankings.
Yeah.
If they're 17-2, that get ready CBS for a great, matchup,
Yeah.
with UConn. But that leads to the problems, and this is the problems teams had last year in the ACC, as I referenced. They got almost have to go 5-0 because any of
Yeah.
those losses seem like, well, that kills their momentum. Not saying one loss is going to knock them out of the tournament or something, but
Right.
it takes away that momentum that we're talking about them right now about. And
Yes.
so, and it takes away the luster from the UConn game that would be. So it's tough. It's tough when your conference hasn't performed well out of conference, and it sets you up for more pitfalls than it does opportunities.
Yeah. Here's the upcoming games here. Big one tomorrow night at your Dorman, St. John's at Butler, also St. John's at Crane. Big week for the Johnnies, honestly, this week.
Well, let's see if they can get back on track, Chad. I totally agree. Sometimes going on the road, it's just your team against the world, and you get a road trip, and you're with your team, you're with your coaches and your players and your program, and that's it. And you get away from everyone at school and your friends and the girlfriends and all the talk. Sometimes it helps you. So let's see if St. John's can go on the road and right the ship here.
UConn with a game at Providence, and they're going to be hosting DePaul. Should be 6-0 in conference next week. We call them the Gonzaga of the East these days. So, but speaking of Gonzaga, let's jump over to the West Coast Conference, where the Zags did go 2-0. Tough win at San Diego. Tough home, also tough home overtime win over Seattle.
Yeah.
And then Seattle also gave St. Mary's a scare on Sunday. Ended up that final score non-indicative of it. But Rocco, I got to ask you, even though they are sitting here at 1-3 in conference, these Red Hawks showed something this week, did they not?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, in the Gonzaga game, multiple chances to win it late. Felt the pressure of the kennel. Gonzaga got that thing to OT and found a way to escape, which they've done before in other games in years past. But I think Seattle does an amazing job of defending the post. As Hans Steinbach's a projected lottery pick for Washington right now, and they completely took away his back shoulder in their big upset win over the Huskies back on December 19th. That carried forward in the first half last night against St. Mary's when they should have had, I think it was an 8-point lead at half. St. Mary's hits a half court shot at halftime to cut it to 5. That was a big momentum play for the Gales. And then, of course, they rode that into the second half and did what the Gales do and put it on Seattle. But I think, if Seattle could have started the second half with an 8-point lead, that might change a lot, right? So, but what they do have really going for them is Seattle's got a top 50 defense. That interior D, like I said, some really big bodies with Huron Dan and Will Heimbro's an amazing leaper. He was top 20 in the country for a while in shot blocking. Austin Bauer's been a project. I thought he was pretty raw when I saw him in Vegas. But even now, at this stage of the season, he's really delivering. Just a young sophomore transfer from Grand Canyon, a big recruit out of the state of Oregon. Not quite ready for like the Oregon Ducks or the Gonzaga Bulldogs quite yet, but a really solid player for Seattle. Jun Suk Yo is a Korean national team player. And then the backcourt is completely back with Braden Maldonado and Malik Arrington. So I think the big question marks, Chad, coming into the year were can they translate from the WAC to the WCC? And I think just a bunch of these early opportunities, getting to play Washington, getting to play Santa Barbara, getting to play, even earlier in the season, they beat Stanford in a huge win when they were down big. And that gave these teams so much confidence. And you could see week in and week out, they're getting better and better and better. And then last week, the dam almost broke with a massive win in the conference. And they'll get a chance to play both St. Mary's and Gonzaga in the big Climate Pledge Arena later this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's great to see them play at Clyde Pledge Arena. We do like the smaller on-campus
Yes,
one
we
Oh,
because
do.
yes.
because it has one of the greatest things in all of college basketball.
Yeah.
Of course, we're talking about
Oh,
And
this
it
is one of
is.
this is one of the greatest things in all the world, not just in college basketball. The structure here is, I mean, it's just remarkable. I'm so glad that I really am glad that we took some time to talk about Seattle. While they didn't win either game, they were certainly worthy of all of the attention that Rocco just gave them. As a fan of teams that are typically not in the spotlight that are building themselves up, just generally speaking. I've got a really soft spot for Seattle. I would have loved to have seen him get one of those. I would have loved to have seen him get in the Gonzaga game, but to start off, they are just 1-3, but those are clearly, not only are those the two hardest games, there's nothing else that's anywhere close to that hard. Not that it's easy, but nothing like that they've got the rest of the way. So they might be running downhill a little bit. While I don't think they get inside the bubble, they're going to have a really big year.
Okay, let's jump over to one other team in this conference before we move on.
Now
here.
let's keep talking about Seattle. I like
Titel. I know you had a few thoughts on Santa Clara. Also 4-0 with Gonzaga and St. Mary's.
I'm still not sure how a team that's won 20 plus games in each of the past 4 years lost to Loyola Chicago in Santa Cruz last month. But Coach Herb Sendek's squad is back on track, 4 straight wins since then. If they can beat the Zags on the road this Thursday, then I think they're indeed going to win 20 this season. We'll see. The unicorn in this conference is 6'9" German point guard Jake Ensminger. He's shooting 52% from the field, 52 assists, and just 14 turnovers in 14 games. Makes me think Dieser Grusemann hat einen unglaubliches Ballgefühl, or as they say in German, that big man has some handles.
Oh, there we go.
It's always an education when Titel is on the
show. Upcoming this week, I think Titel nailed the game of the conference this week. It's Santa Clara at Gonzaga coming up on Thursday. That is probably
their last year.
Yep.
They did win their last year.
Yeah. Real quick over to the Mountain West, Joby. We know you love the conference. I'm going to throw it over to you here. We've got to give a shout. I mean, Utah State picked up a road win, got a bit of a battle from Fresno.
Fresno sucks.
Okay.
No!
I mean, they suck.
Oh,
so when we're talking about, I don't know, middle of the pack. So when Virginia Tech goes in and they beat Boston College in Boston, we're going to give them laud. We're going to praise them. Come on.
But Utah State does have an impressive 12-1 record.
Utah State's a tournament team, yes. And it's more because they don't have the names, but those that VCU and that Illinois State win, they are actually good wins. The two teams that I would not be surprised win those conferences regular season titles at the end of the day. With Tulsa falling back this weekend, and we'll talk about that in a second. And the American, they kind of represent that tier O, next tier up, regular season group, along with the Golden Hurricane. They're going to have to. They're in the position that a lot of the Big East teams are. The Mountain West doesn't have the marquee teams that will give you tournament wins. Boise is still being held back by that division. They needed to win this weekend. They didn't in San Diego. You just don't have the wins.
Hawaii Pacific
is going to haunt them all season. Rocco, I think we'll talk about New Mexico, who I do think could become a second team that makes it. But Utah State needed a little bit more out of conference. They're going to be in the tournament as long as they take care of business, but they missed a chance to really climb the seed ladder. And because they're not going to rack up the wins that teams from the SEC and the Big Ten and et cetera are going to in the middle of the pack, you're going to see the Iowas of the world pass them. You're going to see the Clemsons of the world pass them on the seed list, I think. And so you're looking at the end of the day, maybe an 8, 9, or 10 seed with a pretty good record, just the same.
Dorman, I think the other story for this week, though, was San Diego State's win over Boise State in triple overtime. Just an insane game. But for that double overtime loss to Troy, I think we'd be still seriously looking at these Aztecs, would we not?
Yeah, absolutely, because the losses are Michigan, Arizona, and Baylor. So everyone can live with those. The Troy loss really stands out like a sore thumb here. They had lost the Boise State game. They were down big. Then they got back in the game in the second half. They should have won in regulation. Then they gave it away in the first overtime. Went back and forth. They hit some threes that were out of this world. Talk about fouling when you're up 3. They hit a 3 at the end of I believe it was the first overtime to send it to a second overtime. But I'm with you, Chad. I really think the San Diego State team is the second best team in the Mountain West. If there's going to be a second bid in the Mountain West, it's going to come, I believe, from this Aztec team. I believe in Brian Dutcher will right the ship. Um, there's not too many tough spots here. The road, going to the pit will be tough, but the rest of the spots aren't as hard as they used to be, with the Mountain West being down as they are this year. So I think San Diego State will continue to pile up wins in the Mountain West. And I think by the time March rolls around, San Diego State will be in decent shape for the tournament, because I think their talent is better than the rest of the Mountain West, minus Utah State.
Yeah, Rocco, what do you think about that? Especially that Boise State triple overtime win could be the win that kind of springboards the back into the season, kind of gets them rolling again.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think I think Boise's really tough, and they're great rivals, and they just battled and battled and battled. San Diego State should have put the game away in regulation, missed free throws in the last minute. A lot of people forgot about that because all the overtimes were so much fun.
Yep.
But that could have been a boring ending if the Aztecs just made their free throws. So I think there's a lot of concerns I've had since the preseason. I think I was one of the only people that didn't pick them to win this league. And it was because last year was a historically bad year rebounding, and that hasn't been fixed because so many of the same guys are there. So they don't have a correction plan for that. And the staple of this program for well over a decade has been dominant defense. And that is not really there right now. It's only the fourth best defense in the Mountain West. That's kind of unheard of around here. We always expect the Aztecs to bring defense, which gives them the chance to win those big national games. This team has lost a little bit of their edge there. They certainly have more offensive talent than they've had in a long time. I mean, the freshman Harrington is so good. If you guys watch that game, I mean, he is a future star. BJ Davis is an amazing scorer, but these guys just aren't quite as efficient and effective because the defense and the rebounding has taken such a hit. And I don't think that's something you can solve just by feeling good. It's a real personnel problem.
Harrington just shooting 62% from 3-point range. That's all.
he's he's going to be getting some calls from like the Nate Oates of the world next year. But I mean, let's talk New Mexico too if you want, Chad.
Sure, I'll pull him up right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the big stories is Tomislav Boljan is really, he's technically a freshman, but he's one of the European imports from Croatia. At 6'9", 250, he plays such a fun style of play. He had a game earlier this year with 21 rebounds in the win against Mississippi State. Now he just had a career-high 25 in the win against Wyoming. And just one of several pieces in the toolkit for Eric Olin, who's just a genius offensive coach, as we saw at UC San Diego in the past and now here at the next level. I just really like the way the pieces for this team are evolving week in and week out. I know they lost the road game to Boise, but like I said before, I respect how hard Boise's playing and how they're also coming together. And of course, that road win at VCU was really, really impressive back about 4 weeks ago. So a big test tomorrow at Colorado State. So see how they respond there. But I really think New Mexico's getting to a point, kind of like UC San Diego last year, where it's going to be really, really hard to score against them, and then also really hard to stop them. And that's an amazing formula, and I think the Lobos could be terrific.
Yeah, I mean, if teams can't score against you and can't stop you, they're going to have a hard time beating you.
Yes.
One more team.
You got to do it on the free throw line.
Yeah.
One more team from the bottom of the conference here, Titel. You want to hit on Vegas a little bit?
I mean, this team had 5 wins on Christmas Day, so I was ready to give up on them, but then I saw their defense keeps holding teams to under 48 points a game, as they did in 2 wins last week over La Sierra. No, I don't know what their mascot is, and Air Force. Tough road trip this week, Wyoming and Colorado State. And even if I don't love first-year coaches, I do have a soft spot for my fellow Arizona alum, Josh Pastner. The problem is on offense. They're outside the top 300 from both one-point land and three-point land. Their best player is junior guard Dre Gibbs Lawhorn. He might be the most well-traveled player in the nation. 4 high schools in 4 different states, 2 years at Illinois, then transferred to Vegas. My only advice to him, rent, don't buy.
There we go. All right. Let's take a quick look at the rest of the upcoming schedule here for the Mountain West. Utah State at Air Force. If that is a game, I'm going to be shocked. But Utah State at Boise State Saturday is actually a chance to be
That's
a
a
really
good
good
win.
one.
New
Yeah.
Mexico might have a Colorado State can be tough to beat at home, but I think New Mexico should, if they're as good as I think they are, they should be able to
I,
win
I
that.
think that's a real good game tomorrow night, actually, New Mexico,
Yeah,
Colorado State. Rocco mentioned
yeah, I
that
do
also.
too.
San Diego State, Nevada
Very
might
good
be
game.
worth a watch as well. Uh, but let's jump over to the Atlantic 10 Conference, where we do have a couple teams with only one loss overall in the season, both St. Louis and George Mason. St. Louis this week picked up wins over just the win over St. Joe's, while Mason won at LaSalle and beat Rhode Island. Uh, Not really certain that we have much in terms of stories from the games that were actually played, other than maybe this very strange story of Loyola Chicago, who looked so awful early this season, picking up wins and road wins and getting a little bit more life back into them. But
Yeah, after looking so brain dead, oh, well, go ahead. I mean, the one thing that you got to point out about George Mason and St. Louis, and it's not their entire story, but it is enough of an anchor to where that strength of schedule is not going to get a whole lot better. I mean, you're
340
talking
and three,
340 and 349.
yeah.
So while you're right, those are impressive bloated records. That is a pastry cart that they
Uh,
racked it up against.
a couple of teams that were worth mentioning here, though. George Washington, first of all, Titel, they picked up a road win. Richmond also beat LaSalle this past week. A little bit of noise out of them.
Coach Chris Caputo might just have the best team in all of DC, which sadly says more about the state of basketball in DC. They did start 2-0 last week. Big test tomorrow with the road trip to Dayton. And a fascinating roster. You got Rafael Slim Castro. He's actually leading the nation in player efficiency rating. It's no longer Cam Boozer, it's Castro. They got a healthy Garrett Johnson. He had to redshirt 2022, leave school in 2023 with a benign tumor in his hip, missed all of last season with a torn ACL. This series scoring 13 a game and leading the team in free throw shooting. Jean Aranguren, how crazy is it that the best Venezuelan in college basketball plays his home game 7 blocks west of the White House? And of course, everyone's favorite strength and conditioning coach, Robert Handy Hendurahan.
Yes.
Although calling the best team in DC, you're really down on Howard after they lose to Delaware State, aren't you? I'm very disappointed
Shouldn't I
in
be?
that. It's just one loss. Come on. Uh, yeah, I don't know what else is worth discussing in this conference this week, other than taking a quick look at the week ahead here, which
VCU at
includes.
George Mason. Yeah.
Well, that's a huge week for VCU. Actually,
Yeah.
Rocco, the VCU team has the best net in the conference, the best J&G in the conference, second best after St. Louis from both those. I'm sorry, but they're hosting St. Louis and they're at George Mason.
Yes, they are. Yeah, it'd be big. I mean, I think the offense at VCU has been really, really humming, but nobody's humming like St. Louis offensively. So
Mm.
you're going to see two elite offenses in that game. It'll come down to, of course, who can stop who. And VCU's really struggled defensively, so they'll have to fix that to have a chance. But playing in a packed, sold out environment, that's going to be such an awesome atmosphere at the Siegel Center.
Yeah.
The other game, George Washington at Dayton tomorrow night, also worth circling here a little bit. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
one more conference to look at here, which somehow is still on the show here.
Oh my
Dorman,
goodness.
let me
Oh,
ask you here.
Oh,
We've been talking about Tulsa. That was the reason we were still keeping the American on the show, not sending them under the radar. Now, it's not easy to go to North Texas and win, but I think if you want to be an at-large team, if you need it, don't you have to do that?
you have to do it because this isn't actually one of North Texas's better teams of the last few years where they have been really, really good. They're good, but like you said, Chad, if you want to remain on that bubble list, if you don't get the auto bid, you have to win these games. And they just didn't do it. And it's only one loss, so I don't want to make it out to be the biggest deal in the world. But you got to put a bunch of wins together. South Florida now at home is a half. They have to have it. It's just nothing. I can't say it any different way. They must win they must beat South Florida at home this week to stay relevant. Let's just say that. And
Yeah,
Well, let's look at Rocco and
Griggs,
Titel.
well, hold on one second,
Okay.
Griggs. I was going to say here that in my opinion here, I think you can't lose more than 2 conference games. And yes, it's only one loss here. But when you're doing your second game, now you've only got one conference game left to lose. the
Yep.
regular season, don't you?
Can they even lose that many? Because when you look at the rest of this schedule, and this is what I wanted to ask our committee guessing experts about, that is nothing. The only thing they have the opportunity there to do is hold serve. There is
Yeah.
nothing, like no individual game that even if they win it, you're like, oh, that's going to look good or that's going to elevate them. Now, all they can really do is collect nickels and quarters the rest of the way and hold serve. And you think they got two more strikes? I think they got maybe one.
No, I thought they
But
had two.
I'll
I
defer.
thought they had two. They lost one. But go ahead,
Oh, okay, yeah.
Rocco. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the American shapes up similar to how some of the better Missouri Valleys have been in recent past, and so in those examples, we were playing that game with the Drake type teams in Indiana State the one year. I do think it's a tad bit better. I mean, the name Memphis being able to beat them,
Yes.
I think will matter a little bit more than anybody you could beat in the Valley. UAB is always really solid. FAU has talent and a name now. South Florida is very talented. They're very disappointing, actually.
Yeah, they are.
That game against UAB. Oh my gosh, the final few possessions were just like, where were their heads at? But South Florida should be so much better. So anyway, I think Tulsa's going to have to. You're telling me Tulsa has to beat all those teams with only one slip up. I just don't think that's even realistic. But at the same time, we'll see what the numbers do over the course of the year. I think the big problem is right now. I look at like the metrics, and Charlotte, Rice, East Carolina, UTSA are all so horrible.
Yeah.
239 and above. Those games are really gonna. If Tulsa even wins those games close, it's gonna
Problem.
crush. It's gonna crush them,
We'll take a
and
look
they
at this.
will, and they will, because it's Tulsa.
On the right-hand side of the screen here, Joby, you're a big numbers guy.
Mm-hmm.
This is what Tulsa's resume would look like should they win every single remaining game of the regular season. It's
Yeah. It's good. That would get them in. If they win
Nah,
out,
I think with,
I
with
don't
only
know.
3 losses, because they'd lose the conference
and
tournament.
then a conference tournament loss.
Conference
Throw one more
tournament.
loss in
Yeah,
there.
I think that gets in. But
Okay.
you change it to 4 losses. Ooh, it starts getting really tough.
Look at all the tier 4
Really
wins
tough.
and look at the tier 1. I don't know if that gets in. That-
And Northern Iowa is going to have a hard time staying in the 70s. I mean,
Yep.
I like that team a lot, but
I
I
like
mean,
that team.
that's
Do you
hard.
think,
That's hard to
Rocco,
stay in the
if South
70s.
Florida though, that at South Florida is within one spot of becoming a tier one. It's not a real tier one in a lot of ways, but at least that would give them something.
Memphis not
If
being
South
good is hurting
Florida-
them.
Memphis not being good is hurting the entire conference.
Conference.
And
Yep.
if South Florida can reach their potential, they should be a road quad one
That's my
team.
point,
They're
yeah.
extremely talented. They just
South
They're
Florida
making
could wind up
bonehead
with only like
mistakes.
3 or 4 losses in conference season.
yeah.
One other team to hit on this league here, Titel. How about Tulane?
So Coach Ron Hunter, he's only had one 20-win season in his first 6 years in New Orleans. I thought he was going to miss out again this year. He started 7-4, double-digit losses to New Orleans and Akron and UCSD, but he has won 4 in a row to right the ship. He gets the whole week off before heading to UTSA on the road on Saturday. And the star of the show is the all-conference first-teamer from last year, Rowan Brumbaugh, the DC native. He only scored 8 points a game as a freshman at Georgetown a couple years ago. He might be Conference Player of the Year this year. 19 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals a game. And the good news, even if the team falls apart, there's only 43 days left until Mardi Gras.
I thought you were going to say 43 days left until the transfer portal opens.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule here. Obviously the games really worth looking at here are Tulsa. They just have the one game against South Florida. And I'm not certain, Griggs, if Tulsa loses this game to South Florida, if we're discussing the American Conference next week on this show, or if they're going to be moved to Wednesday night.
I guess that will be discussed in our green room, which is another word for our email chat. But they may not be.
But
we
that does.
might as well replace the MAC with them if Miami of Ohio.
We might.
Yeah.
But let's jump over to final thoughts now. Titel, I'm going to start with you because I know you need the screen share for something.
So we talked about Vanderbilt earlier in the SEC, and one of the biggest reasons that they're having the best season in their 124-year history of basketball is all of their Tylers. You got Tyler Nickel, the senior, scoring 15 a game, Tyler Harris, the junior, scoring 9 a game, and the one you see here, Tyler Tanner, the sophomore, leading the team with 16 points and 6 assists a game, leading the conference with 35 steals. He was a two-time high school player of the year in Tennessee. He didn't choose the Vols. He didn't choose Memphis. He chose the Commodores. As a freshman, only power conference player in the country with an assist to turnover ratio of at least 4.2. And in this age of the transfer portal, you assume that a guy who didn't start a single game as a freshman would head somewhere else for year number two. But Coach Mark Byington convinced him to stick around, and now everything is dandy and Vandy.
Oh, Dandy and Vandy.
Oh.
Joby.
Well, what an interesting final. We referenced it in our discussion, the Auburn Georgia game. Crazy ending. We've heard of, fouling and should you foul on the three or not? Well, or we saw why you really don't want to foul when you're up four. You're up four, and oh, I felt so bad for Jeremiah Wilkinson, who fouled from behind too. It wasn't like Hall, bounced back into it. It was just simply he reached in from behind for no apparent reason on a soft foul. And so this poor guy, after the miracle 4-point play, it's overtime. So he must have just performed poorly in overtime because he's so downtrodden. Nope. With his team down by two with 2 minutes to go, he nails not just one, but two threes to basically save Georgia's bacon. 31 points on the night. Uh, Goat to hero, most certainly, in this particular case, as he was the catalyst in overtime. Congratulations, Mr. Wilkinson. We will remember you as the hero, not the goat.
Dorman.
Yes, get home from work tomorrow early. Get your chores done. Get your homework finished, and get in front of about 5 to 6 TVs because tomorrow's slate is absolutely awesome. We mentioned throughout the show, but Texas Tech's going to Houston, Duke and Louisville. Georgia's going to Florida. The Johnnies are going into Hinkle to take on Butler. UCLA is going into the Kohl Center, take on Wisconsin. Iowa's going to the Barn. Central Florida is going into Gallagher, Iowa to take on Oklahoma State. And then late night, New Mexico's going to Colorado State. One of a great night of college basketball tomorrow.
I'll throw one more. TCU, Kansas. Keep an eye on that one as well.
Yeah, that's
tomorrow.
a good one too. Yeah.
Rocco.
Yeah, a couple of nuggets. I think, Georgia, we touched on earlier, 7 games already, over 100 points, including the Auburn opener to start conference play. Right now, the second fastest tempo in the country, which shatters any Mike White season at any of his coaching spots, La Tech, Florida, etc. So I've been curious, like, what changed this summer in Athens, but it's really exciting to watch, and it gives them definitely a different element to prepare for. We'll see how that plays out with 17 SEC games left to go. In the Big East, obviously we're doing some comparisons with last year and previous year's ACCs. I think it's a tad different, mainly because there's only 11 Big East schools. ACC has 18 schools, and last year ACC had 8 teams below 100. And right now, DePaul is 107 in strength of resume, and obviously Marquette's in the toilet. But besides those two, the other 9 are still 95 and above, with Providence being that 95 in strength of resume. So again, that's one metric. But I think the league being smaller gives the Big East a little bit more hope to consolidate up towards the top. We'll see how that plays out. I think that's very interesting. As it comes to Loyola Chicago, I of course was on the call for the big win over Santa Clara and went to a place unplanned afterwards to meet Drew Valentine. He ended up going there as well, so we had a nice conversation. So one of the big changes there is there are certain players, I won't name names, that he's just going to refuse to play from now on that really killed them in their horrible losses to Chicago State, Northern Illinois, Mercyhurst, the list goes on. So Loyola Chicago, a heck of a comeback these last 3 games and playing spoiler in the A10. And last but not least, the only thing better than Joby's slander on the Mountain West is David Dorman's reactions to Joby slander. I love it.
So, Griggs, you want to finish off the show?
Yeah, I'm going to give a little bit of a plug to our Under the Radar podcast, which we record on Wednesdays. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, be sure and tune in then. It's been a while since we've had an Under the Radar team on our show. I think we're a couple of weeks away from it. Miami, Ohio checks in at 30 this week in the AP poll, and the teams in front of them are, well, one of them is USC, who will probably be dropping down just by the nature of the polls of how they work. You got Seton Hall, Villanova, UCS, SMU. You got about three or four teams that throughout the course of the next 2 weeks are likely to lose, and Miami, Ohio has not played a tough schedule, and they don't really have a tough stretch of games ahead of them. They are not likely to lose. So they might be getting into the rankings. But here's the teasing, and we'll get into this. While they're the team that's probably in the biggest spotlight, are they the best under the radar team? And I'll go ahead and, well, no, I'm not going to tell you my answer to that. You have to watch Wednesday night.
Yeah, they do. Miami, Ohio does have a tough road test at Toledo coming up this weekend, so they got to get past that
I think
one.
they'll win that one, though. I do think they'll win it. Yeah.
But on that note, I do want to take this chance to thank everybody for joining us. As Griggs teased, we will be back Wednesday night with Under the Radar, Sunday night with another bracket rundown, next Monday night with another Hoops HD report. But on behalf of David Dorman, John Teitel, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, Joey Fortson, David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.